Hi guys, well it's an overcast Sunday morning in Cairns, but it is warm, so can't complain. Still a little on the cooler side, which is fantastic because I know that summers could well be very brutal. So with that in mind, just wanted to make a comment about a couple of events that took place this week on the international stage. Obviously, the big one was the long-awaited debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, which was broadcast on the ABC network in the US, which happens to be owned by the Disney Corporation, and Disney is incredibly woke. And as it turned out, we've discovered since the debate that Donald J. Trump was quite hobbled before he even started that debate. I don't think it was his best performance. I wasn't happy with his response about Ukraine, so I want to put that up front. He basically is quite happy to throw them under a bus, and I think that's bloody stupid. And it's the only major policy that I take real issue with Donald Trump. I think in general he'd be much better for the American economy than Kamala Harris. Well, Kamala Harris is like Biden; she's a front person. She's clueless. She doesn't understand economics, and it's just pathetic watching her always divert from answering a straight question. She just can't do it. She can't talk about the economy. She just doesn't understand it. Her father was a Marxist, and she's basically following in Daddy's footsteps. Totally unrealistic. She's lived most of her life, I think, in Canada prior to coming to America, and of course ended up in San Francisco, which is Wokeville, and she just lives in a left-wing bubble, and it's not good. You can't relate to people running businesses and what have you. It's just ridiculous. But again, as I said, I don't think it was Donald Trump's best performance by a long shot. However, he did have one killer line right at the end. He was given the rebuttal for the final comment, and the question he asked, he said, "Well, Kamala, you've been in power, part of the Biden administration, which you've been rubbishing for the last 3 years. Why didn't you institute all these wonderful plans when you actually were in a position of power in government?" And it's a telling question, and it's one that she cannot really answer. I mean, I suppose you could say that because she's vice president, she doesn't have that much control or whatever, but yeah. But the other aspect, of course, of this debate was the way the ABC just totally set it up with moderators who were more like inquisitors rather than moderators, especially from the perspective of Donald Trump. They were supposed to do live fact-checking. They fact-checked Donald Trump several times, but not once did they fact-check Kamala Harris. And apparently she came up with some real whoppers. She's not averse to lying. She's as bad as any other scumbag politician. Donald Trump's no angel. Don't get me wrong. But you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And basically the whole thing was set up. But even more telling is now I don't know whether this is still just a rumour or it's been confirmed that the woman who was one of the moderators, she actually was an old friend of Kamala Harris from her sorority days, and she gave Kamala Harris these test questions to go through before the actual trial questions, before they actually had the debate. As it turned out, they were pretty well the same questions that were actually asked. So it's no wonder that Kamala Harris's performance was rather smooth and much more fluent than in the past. And she did present a hell of a lot better than in the past. But the bottom line is that when they asked undecided voters, independent voters, who are the people that you really need to influence if you want to win a presidential election, they had a focus group. I think it was Forbes magazine ran the focus group, and 6 out of 10 of the focus group said that they were inclined to vote for Donald Trump after the debate, and only 3 out of 10 were inclined to vote for Kamala, and there was 1 undecided. Now, I mean, that's only 10 people, so you want to take that with a grain of salt. But the point is, the people that you need to influence are the independent voters. And I don't think that Donald Trump did himself any damage as such with this particular debate. He could have done better, but again, it was 1 against 3. It was him against Kamala and the moderators, who were so biased. It was just, I mean, really, in an ideal world, if a broadcaster who has the privilege of having a license to broadcast to the general public does become that biased, they should be under suspension with their license, scrutinised on their license renewal, and maybe have it rescinded. I mean, it's a joke. They hand out these licenses forever. I don't think they've ever knocked anyone back. The same applies with Australia, for that matter. Becoming less relevant now because of this particular outlet, YouTube and online in general. The power of the main broadcasters is nowhere near as great as it used to be, thank God, and that's a good thing in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, if that is true, that she was fed questions prior to the actual debate, that's a bigger scandal than the quiz show scandal that took place in America, I think in the 50s or early 60s, where the quiz champion was also fed questions before they were actually asked. So it was a huge scandal back then. But that was only a quiz show. This is actually a presidential election. And I think it's indicative of how our morals have changed over the journey. Over that period of time, people are now accepting more and more malfeasance when it comes to the way these things are conducted. I think it's terrible. And my opinion in general of journalists couldn't be much lower. I think they're the pits, to be quite frank. They're mainly activists. Not all journalists. There are some very good ones that actually do their job, but they're few and far between. The majority are hacks, and they're radical hacks with an agenda. They're not there to present the news. They're to present their angle of the news, their opinion. Everyone has a bias, whether you're trying to be straight down the centre. It's impossible. But it's so blatant where these people are coming from, because all the courses now are run by universities which are notoriously left-wing in nature. You're going to get that bias from the word go. And that has come through to the media in general, right throughout the Western Hemisphere. And I think we need to do something about it, and maybe even ban them recruiting journalists from universities. Cut that off totally as a source. Have them being trained in-house, even if the government has to pay media groups to basically train people. I'd rather be done at the shop floor than through a university. I think it's total BS. And my opinion about humanities and social science faculties at university is that they should never get any public funding. If you want to indulge your kids in that sort of crap, you pay out of your own pocket and there's no taxpayer money involved. That's my opinion. It's a fairly tough stance, but I think something major has to happen because the rot has set in and it's just not good enough. And I think we'll find you'll get a much, much better media after that, because they're supposed to be the guardians of democracy. It's very important to have a media that's vigilant and does do investigative reporting and is even-handed, as you can be. You can't possibly be totally even-handed because we're talking humanity and we're flawed individuals, we're humans. So yeah, I mean, I'm just disgusted by most journalists. I really have that low an opinion. I just, as a profession, I reckon street walkers have got a higher status socially these days. So that's how I feel about that. The other major beef that I have this week is the FAA, the Federal Aviation Authority in America, have basically put the kibosh on the Starship development. They're supposed to have a fifth test flight of Starship, which was one of the major game-changing technologies taking place in space. The SpaceX is so far ahead of the competition, it's not funny. But they've come up with these spurious arguments to actually delay the next test launch of the Starship by several months. Now, this is ridiculous on environmental grounds, and they're spurious environmental grounds. This is undoubtedly a political decision. The Biden government doesn't like Trump. I think they hate Trump's guts, actually. I mean, they don't like Trump, but they don't like Musk, is what I'm trying to say. They hate Musk's guts. Musk is actually allying himself with Trump now, which obviously makes him even more of a target, because Trump is going to give him a position in his administration if he wins the election. And the FAA are obviously doing all in their power to cause Musk angst by delaying his next Starship test flight. And it's just disgusting, because he's one of the great innovators in America. He's one of the shining lights. America's got a lot of problems, but he is one person that we can all look up at and say, well, you know, he is making incredible strides technologically. But you've got petty bureaucrats, politically motivated, who are basically just trying to make life hell for him. I wouldn't want to have a job in the FAA after the election if Trump gets in, because I think there's going to be blood in the corridors. If you're a careerist in the FAA, you may want to look at your CV and look at alternatives, because it's not going to be good for them. It really pisses me off. I'm sorry. Just, you know, I've got a personal stake in this, in it. I love watching the development of that technology, because I think the implications of it is far-reaching. It'd be good for humanity in general. In economic terms, it's not just for a scientific effort. This is going to have major economic benefits by making access to space cheaper. But, you know, Biden administration, I mean, we don't even know who's in control of the Biden administration. Is it Biden's wife or his sleazebag son, or just some shadow cabinet we know nothing about, people in the background? It's not democratic. It's disgusting. America is really in a dark period at the moment, and hopefully we won't be going towards a third world war situation, because America is totally unprepared. They don't have the leadership to be effective at the moment, and so fingers crossed that we don't have that the China trying to invade Taiwan, or Putin do something crazy like using nukes, because, you know, I don't know what the response from Washington would be these days. They're taking forever to give Ukraine permission to use long-range weapons, which is disgusting. But anyway, so that's basically it. It hasn't been a great week as far as that's concerned. I've been pretty well a hermit at home. I need to get out and do a bit more walking, because my back's playing up again. So that would be nice. It is a beautiful part of the world I'm living in. That's the positive. Please support this channel. Consider subscribing. The subscriptions have dried up a bit recently. They go in waves, and I haven't received any increase of recent times. Just one extra subscriber, which is appreciated, but it would be nice to sort of get close to the magic 1,000 subscribers. And feel free to comment. Anyway, look, have a great day. Like I say, give me a thumbs up and comment. Anyway, I just got myself a bottle of cheap Lindermans cab sap for $6. Amazingly good value. Hasn't killed me so far, so I'll keep drinking it. And I find that if I do the walking like this, at least every couple of days, definitely is improving my back health, because I was getting that twitch in the left arm, but not so much now. It sort of faded as soon as I went over to Vietnam, because I was doing a lot of walking, obviously. Just every time I go on a trip, I walk a lot more than I do at home, so just got to do more of it locally, and to make sure that I can avoid the anti-inflammatories. I'm going to take enough pills as it is. I will add to the long march of the pharmaceuticals that I have to pop into my mouth continually. So that'd be good. Yeah, it's a nice day though. Just a wisp of a breeze and probably pushing towards mid-20s. Not much humidity. Not really any. It's just a really nice day. So this is the best time of year to be here. It's wonderful. Well, the weather's substantially better this Tuesday than the previous week. Beautiful morning. We've had some lovely days, and this is another one of them. In a world that's sort of got so many problems, it's nice to be up here in a little enclave. And congratulations to Sid, one of my long-term subscribers, who's just purchased himself a property in Trinity Beach. Well done. So he'll be a neighbour soon, which will be nice. It's about a half-hour walk to Trinity Beach, but I regard that as being pretty well neighbours as far as Northern Beach is concerned anyway. So yeah, that's all done. I had my handyman Dale round yesterday. He got a few things done. One of the weird things is he got me some petrol for my motor mower, but it wasn't properly sealed. It was a jerry can, but it didn't actually have a proper top to it. Yeah, I'm actually walking down Lake Street towards the CBD just to get to the supermarket. I needed to do a bit of walking. It definitely improves my back, because that pain that I get on the left side is starting to come back, so I've got to regularly have a walk. The only problem is that I've lost so much weight. I've got to keep holding up my pants at the moment. It's just ridiculous. I was hoping to put some weight back on when I got back from Vietnam, but it hasn't happened yet. It's very crowded around. There's people everywhere at the moment. I bumped into a lot of people in the clinic too. I don't know what it is today. Everybody's out and about. The bus was super efficient though, much better than the previous week. And I got there on time. So I haven't walked down Lake Street for ages. I always used to get the bus, but that's because I got a daily ticket. But I don't think they have daily tickets at the moment with this new 50-cent fare structure. I'm just not sure. There's been no publicity about it that I've heard of anyway. So I think that's the only fare that they're selling. But again, I'm only guessing. I mean, in theory, you could be worse off on a pension if you had to do a lot of short trips in one day with this system. So I think they'd still have to have a daily option, but I just haven't heard of it. Oh, I just had a Newbie bus driver take me back, and I rushed my shopping at Woolworths. I didn't need to, because I totally stuffed up the timetables. But yeah, the bus turned up and didn't have any lights on the destination, so really hard to read, because it's just sort of like dull sort of white on a black background without the lighting in them to highlight it. So I found it very difficult to read, and I know I realised why that had happened, because it's definitely a Newbie bus driver, because when they got to Smithfield,
they took that ridiculous little diversion around a roundabout that only new drivers ever use. Every other driver just skips it and goes straight onto the highway, or just doesn't leave the highway. It's the most ridiculous requirement that they obviously put on the bus drivers, and 99% of them ignore it. So bloody just a joke. So, and then the weird thing is that the bus was quite full too, very full. I just couldn't believe how full it was. Today, of course, I get a delivery when I'm out of the house. That always happens. But I left the gate open this time, so we'll see if they've worked out actually how to open an unlocked gate. 50-50 chance that that's the case, we'll see. Yeah, it's another glorious day here. Just the weather has been absolutely superb. And I also planted a new shrub, a flowering shrub today. I did another one last week, and I've got about 3 more to go. The only problem is that Dale has put down that very thick plastic base, and then I'll put mulch over the top of it, wood chips, that type of thing. The thing is, if you're going to put a plant in there, you've really got to break that plastic, and it's quite thick. So I'm just wondering whether I should maybe use this. I tried this shovel, but I don't think it's cut through. It is pretty strong stuff, that plastic. So I may have to use one of the stakes I've got to cut a hole there so the roots can penetrate through that barrier. I'll get on to Dale, because he seems to have a reasonable amount of knowledge when it comes to gardening. He's the only person I really know that can help me with that sort of stuff. So not only a handyman, but he's he's into growing plants and what have you, and he seems to know what he's talking about. So that's really good. I mean, I'd like to probably get involved locally with people doing that sort of thing, but I don't know of any groups that exist. I know the ones that formally exist down in Cairns itself are sort of bit PC, bit sort of greeny type stuff, and they've got the usual agenda stuff, and I just want a basic gardening group, so I can learn some basic skills to propagate. But I've got to say, I'm having luck with my I thought I'd definitely it was looking very dodgy for my tree fern that was in the pot. Dale suggested that I repot it, and the people at Branches, they agreed with that actually, because that was their suggestion too. And as it turns out, it's reviving. We've got one of the fronds is actually uncurling and looking super green and healthy and live. So yeah, I almost wrote that one off, but it's definitely reviving, so that's really good news. So I haven't lost any of my tree ferns. They've been knocked about by me not watering them, but they're all recovering too. It's been about 4 weeks now since I've been back, and they're all starting to show a lot of new growth, so that's great. So that's really all you got to do with them. They look after themselves as long as they've got plenty of water. So I mean, it survived summers. They've survived a couple of summers here, but you've just got to make sure you keep them moist. But they're beautiful trees. I love them. Love that the fern leaves. They're just very delicate and soothing. They're just beautiful plants. So yeah, I might buy some more, but we'll see how I go. I've got quite a few. I've got about probably got about 6 of them, I think, maybe more. 6 to 8 of them, and they can get quite large. So yeah, very nice plants. And I'm just doing a walk to Liquorland, just pick up a cheap bottle of red. Well, it was a really big relief on Friday to finally get my complaint with CommSec sent off. It basically relates to the fact I didn't receive the first lot of dividends on my shares in around September last year, because after the CommSec had been told about the fraud, they changed all the ID numbers for my shareholdings. So what happened in effect is that rather than being continuous holder of, say, CBA shares, which are my biggest holding, it looks as though I didn't own them throughout that period where you qualify for your dividends. So I got zero, and it was no fault of mine, and CBA still had me as a shareholder the whole time. So if they don't pay me back, I would I'm going to fight that one tooth and nail. The other one was with Telstra. It's another big shareholding. The two biggest shareholdings are those two, and the third one was Coles, which is my also quite a reasonable shareholding. I mean, fairly conservative portfolio. But that one, it was, the dividends was paid, but to the hacker's account. So I never got to see that money, and still had to declare it in my tax return. I don't think it mattered much because it's fully franked anyway, so the tax has already been taken out, so it's not like it would have added to my tax burden at all. I'm surprised I'm paying any tax. I haven't exactly got a high income. I think they really need to look at reforming the tax rates at the lower end, because they already hit you with GST, and of course if you're buying grog, especially liquor, they get you with excise as well. So you know, they hit you in lots of different ways, and I'm not even a driver, so if I was driving a car I'd have that to bitch about as well, because of rego and all the other, and the tax on petrol, all those things. They taking a lot of money, and I don't think they look after it that well. They don't try to minimise the waste, that's for sure. It's one thing I sort of like about having sort of a politician like Trump, is that he's a businessman and he doesn't like wasting money. But most of the politicians couldn't give a rat's. So I think that's great the way he's different there, but of course most of the media are dead against him. I mean, the TDS level in Australia would be higher than the States, I would think. And that's Trump derangement syndrome, by the way. Like I said, the only issue I've got with him is about Ukraine. I wish he'd just sort of say that he wouldn't just let him be bullied around by the Russians. But I seriously don't think he's going to be a soft touch for Putin, that's for sure. He's going to make it very difficult, and he's not going to be as... He has supported Ukraine in the past, so I'm not as pessimistic as some people. You'll get a lot of these people that report online. You know, I watch them fairly regularly. Jake Bro would have to be the most biased Democrat supporter out, totally anti-Trump. I find it quite annoying, actually. He's, you know, he can't see that he's actually alienating part of his audience. If he really cares about the Ukrainian cause, then don't alienate part of your audience which could support the effort in Ukraine, because not all people who are Trump supporters are against Ukraine, far from it. So, you know, I don't think he's much of a politician. That may not be such a bad thing, but it does annoy me, because anytime he talks about domestic politics in the US, he's extremely one-eyed, and I just can't hack that. I mean, there's bad people on both sides, but gee, the bloody Democrats can be very mercenary and looking up. They want power even more than the Republicans. All politicians, you know, have agendas and what have you, but what makes it worse is the media have just become an advocacy for the left wing in general, with the exception, I guess, of Fox, although I wouldn't trust everything you hear on that network either. You should be cynical about everything you get in the mainstream media. I just heard today from one of the guys doing polls on the presidential election, he's saying that the ABC has released polls which are showing Kamala Harris doing really well. But you know who owns ABC? It's Disney. Disney, one of the most woke companies on the planet, not to exactly be trusted. So, yeah, they don't have a lack of information about polls in the US. There's so many of them, and they've got 50 states to cover. Not that they worry about places like California because they're so blue it's not funny. Although I think there's a shift happening even there, but it's from such a low base of Republican support that, you know, there's no way that state's going to shift. New York would be ahead of it, funnily enough. New York is actually moving further to the right than California. I don't know, maybe people in California just love paying taxes because they are taxed to the hilt. Well, the way Google is acting with YouTube, they keep trying to throw ads at you, even if you've got an ad blocker. It's funny, again, with my computer, it's very different with the laptop as opposed to the desktop. The ads on Google on the laptop are generally blocked. But not today. Every now and again, like once a week, Google come up with this thing saying you need to disable your ad blocker, and so you can't watch any of the videos. So what I do is I mute the sound, which is just M. You push M on your keyboard, you mute your sound, and then I basically record a clip, especially if it's a longer one, on YouTube. There's no way I'm going to be sitting through all the... I mean, it's worse than broadcast TV because the ads just come on in a random manner and can just basically pound you. You could be watching like a 5-minute clip and you could have about 5 different ad breaks. It's just ridiculous. It's out of control. But, you know, big tech don't give a rat's about your viewing pleasure, that's for sure. They're just trying to get the money. I don't think they're making money with YouTube anyway. I know they weren't up to recently anyway. It's not a cheap operation, but, you know, they're going to basically kill the golden goose. Hopefully there will be a real alternative to it at some stage, but I guess the infrastructure is so great that they've got such a head start. I actually contributed to BitChute, but... they don't do themselves any favours either. They're supposed to give me some stuff for being a contributor. I never received anything from them. And now they've blocked me from the site. They wouldn't allow my old login. So stuff them. They're just amateur hour to be avoided, in my opinion. But I actually did donate to them for some time. Not a huge amount of money, but on a monthly basis. I was giving them a kickback. I thought, you know, we should support independent media, but some of them just don't deserve it. But anyway, it's yeah, I just, like I say, mainstream media, I just can't stand it. I've always hated ads, and it was a revelation to me when we had VCRs. It just gave me a way of avoiding them all. So now I get a lot of my stuff, I just download it. I don't go through the normal process and avoid ads. It's only YouTube I'm copying ads, and only like about one day of the week on my desktop, like today. Tomorrow I'll probably be okay again on the laptop. But like I said, there are ways around it. You just basically find a YouTube downloader and download the clip. If it goes for, say, 30 minutes to an hour, you don't have to worry about any advertising. Once you've got the clip, you've passed it, onto the server, it will download and you won't have those hassles again. So there's always a way around it. Yeah, I just don't watch broadcast TV. Only thing I'd use it for would be for sport, I think. And the way Richmond's playing, I'm not particularly interested in watching sport at the moment, not AFL anyway. So, which is probably the main thing I'd be watching. Not a cloud in the sky. Amazing. Oh, what a day. It is good being up here. I should go down to the beach. I mean, I haven't been back since returning from Vietnam. So, oh, nice breeze. You can probably hear it through the microphone. It's not worth me wearing that other microphone unless I'm in it. Have to go out into an area where I know it's going to be blowy all the time, because the sound volume on the microphone was lower. I mean, you can compensate for it in your editing suite, but it's a bit of a hassle. Oh. Yeah, it's the first time I've had a glass of vino around midday, because I like to have my cheese and biscuits, and of course they're much better if you have a couple of glasses of vino. I've got to be fairly strict on it though. I don't drink too much because it'll just flake me out midday and half the afternoon's gone. So that's not good. I've got to do something about that story. It's so hard for me to get off my ass and just start doing the editing. Oh dear. I will be interested to see if anybody's interested. I mean, I'm getting virtually zero interest for the other stories I've posted on Amazon. But the other one I've worked on years ago is much longer. Maybe that would garner more interest. I don't know. And it's a slightly different genre, not sort of sci-fi, sort of, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you. Yeah, it's sci-fi elements, but not a classic sort of hard sci-fi by any stretch. Oh, quite a bit of traffic around here, buzzsaws. Yeah, well, there's the guy who's looking at the poll averages. He's just talking about how ABC is just garbage when it comes to the polls. I don't know what they're trying to achieve by doing it either. If they are telling all these Harris supporters that it's a shoo-in to win the election, well, it's not compulsory voting, so they may not turn up. So I don't understand that. It doesn't really do her campaign any good. I mean, I don't expect her to understand the nuances of that, because I think she's a bit of a dimwit, to be quite frank. Hard to believe she got a law degree. Did she get it legitimately? Who knows? But, yeah, I think she's had you talk about having a couple of glasses of red wine at lunchtime. I think that's kiddie's play by Kamala standards. I think she hits it quite hard. Her and Pelosi probably have drunken binges. That'd be perfect. Oh, they had this really cringe clip of all these Democrats, including Pelosi and AOC, and they're sort of dancing. Well, it looked so forced. It was just pathetic. But I think actually Julia Dreyfus from Seinfeld, you know, that she played Elaine. She's also in Veep. I think she was one of the people too. God, I didn't realise she was that hardcore Democrat. I knew she certainly swayed Democrat, but yeah, Veep is actually a show that I can still watch, so that doesn't come across as overtly anti anyone right or centre. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.